Oh, recalls are a total nemesis for car manufacturers. Think about Ford. They're leading recalls. It's costing them billions of dollars. But more importantly, recalls are based on safety problems. And nobody is worse than car brands like Ford, Stellantis. We're hearing it all over the place. Recalls every which way. But when I start looking at lists like this, we know that a lot of these car manufacturers are struggling with recalls. I mean, Kia Telluride, look at this, burned to the ground. I read that article and it was because of seat heaters that had failed. And it was a recall, they just never got to it yet. Children's car seat over risk of injury. More issues with Tesla. Of course, Cybertruck, Ford vehicles, Tesla. And I heard about that as well. Have you heard that some of the sheet metal's flying off? It was lightly glued on with the inappropriate type of glue. And now pieces of shards of stainless steel are flying off these vehicles, allegedly, and potentially hurting other people around them. I know somebody personally that was driving a car and they were following a big semi and they hit a bump and the semi flew and kicked and lost its load, and a big piece of pipe, I'm talking 6-inch steel pipe that was about 40, 50 feet long, bounced off the bed of the truck, came sailing right by this person I know, ripped off the mirror of their car, and literally just missed piercing the windshield, the driver windshield. So it's important that we think about the safety implications of some of these vehicles. Let's face it, a lot of the manufacturers are just pushing products out to the consumers like us, you know, and they're doing it at 90-95% and let some of the details work their way out in the mud. But I've got a list of 10 of the worst culprits and 10 of the best. So if you're thinking about maybe buying a car and you don't want all that hassle about taking time off or dealing with recalls or safety problems in your vehicle, because recalls do indicate to me, it's an underlying indication that the care and attention and pride into that vehicle goes in. If they're not taking care of that vehicle or the precision, the detailing or the engineering or the parts, that's when things like this start falling apart. Have you ever heard of the Swiss cheese model? When you have multiple Swiss cheeses and you find that right slot, it's usually a result of many different failures, whether it's controls or products or, you know, supply chain. Something went awry and then you have these recalls. And it's sad because you see it all over the place. So let's take this right from the top, shall we? The Kia Telluride, surprise, surprise. Right there, this one is on the list as number 10. 22.2 expected in a 30-year lifetime recalls. And again, this is based on iSeeCars.com and their wonderful list. But really, when you compare that to the median, of course, compares to 1.0. So 1 times is the average. Well, Kia Telluride, it looks like it is about a 6.9 times. Then we move up the list. The Genesis GX70 is also 6.9 times, and I'm sure if we browse this list, we'll find a Genesis in there. The next one is Lincoln Aviator at 8.1 times, and we talked, Lincoln is a Ford product, so that's no shocker. Then we have Tesla Model X, 11.6 times. So 11.6 times the average or the median. So you should be targeting 1.0, but 11.6 times for a Tesla Model X, and 11.9 times for Tesla Model S. Those are their big luxury versions. The X is the big one with the Falcon doors, and the S is the big car, the full-size car. It's not a shock. Now, a lot of these are done over the air. It just does not inspire confidence. I mean, a lot of these Teslas we've heard steering wheels come off. We're hearing backup camera issues. We're hearing drivability problems, braking issues, bolts not being done up, lighting issues, electric troubles. It's not a shocker. I mean, every week we hear something new from Tesla. Of course, the next one is Lucid Air at 12.4 times. Not that a lot of people are buying Lucid Airs. Now here's where it gets kind of interesting. Porsche Panamera at 13.3 times. And we've also always believed Porsche had some of the best quality. And I think in a lot of ways they do, but clearly in a lot of ways, maybe they're missing the mark. And the 911 is always their sweet spot. But you know, these outliers, and the Panamera being a very complex rear-wheel drive vehicle, it's a very complicated vehicle, full of chocked with technology. 13.3 times. The Tesla Model 3 is 18.8 times. Should not be a surprise. The Tesla Model Y. Would you believe the Tesla, here's a fun fact, Tesla Model Y outsold every vehicle last year. I mean every vehicle, not just electric vehicles. They're a popular seller, but we're also seeing a lot of failures. 20.7 times the median. Terrible, devastating record for reliability, recalls, problems. You'll spend more time taking that vehicle in for servicing. And the worst culprit, believe it or not, I mean, this actually doesn't totally surprise. A little bit it does because we know Fords are going to be up there. But the Porsche Taycan, that's their EV. That's Porsche's pure EV car. 21.9 times the median. That's absolutely brutal. How did they get there? Well, a lot of it is because it's their first kick at electrification. So we know that you're always going to have problems. Any vehicle that's early released is going to have a problem. If you really do care about buying a vehicle that's well sorted, that doesn't have a ton of recalls, it likely doesn't have a ton of mechanical problems, because largely manufacturers that take the care and the time and attention to detail to make sure that they don't have those problems, they don't have those bugs, they have all of the research and development worked out, they probably are a little bit more reliable on average. Not always. There are outliers, but on average, these are probably some of your more reliable, more dependable, and certainly, arguably, some of the safest vehicles from a research and development perspective, because they don't have recalls. Mercedes-Benz GLC, 0.1 times. Remember, the Porsche Taycan was 20 and some times. This is 0.1 times. The Mercedes GLC is actually very seldomly recalled. And I have a C-Class. A lot of you are well aware of that. There's things we love and things we don't love about it so much. But realistically, what we have is a car that has a few bugs, but not recalls. We've had bulletins show up in the mail. It's sort of an optional. If there's an issue with this, we'll fix it, and we'll fix it free of charge as they're extending warranties out. I can't even remember having a recall specifically that comes through the NHTSA, which addresses safety issues. With that said, the next one in line is a Mercedes-Benz GLA, and then that's 0.1 times, and the Mercedes-Benz CLA, which is effectively the same vehicle as the GLA, but the CLA is on a small sedan, and that's a 0.1 times. Then we move up our list. This one should be no surprise. Mazda MX-5. Those are very reliable. We know Mazda makes some of the most reliable cars on the roads right now, and the MX-5 is one of the most reliable sporty cars, bar none. And the Audi TTS, this one's surprising at 0.1 times. Audi actually makes a car that isn't full of and littered with problems, but unfortunately the TT is doing this. Here's the next one, ES250. 0.1 time. That's kind of their low end. Features that naturally aspirate a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, similar engine as we have in our Toyota Camry. Great engine, great platform, a little gutless, but if you want reliable and you want a vehicle that's not going to be called in for recalls, the Lexus ES250, the Lexus NX300H. There you go. That's also 2.5 with comes with the hybrid drive on it. And then the next one is a Lexus RX 450H. That's a plug-in hybrid, the H+. We love that. Oh no, that's the RX 450. Sorry, H, not the NX. The Lexus ES300H, also at 0.1 times. Mini convertible, 0.1 times. If you can believe it, statistics aren't lying. So according to iSeeCars.com, Mini convertible, which is a BMW product, has 0.1 times. So essentially what we're talking about is less than one recall over 30 years. In terms of recalls anyway, and safety-wise, it's a very, very reliable car. Older Minis, we know there's been lots of problems. If you go 2014 and older, you're going to be littered with mechanical problems, water pumps, gearbox issues, leaks, coolant problems. The old Prince engine were a problem. But when they say you start getting into the 2015s and 16s and newer, they've got different engines, different gearboxes, and there's a much, much stronger attention to detail. And they've actually come from a lot better place in terms of reliability. BMW's focused on their durability, and they even make consumers reports for some of the more reliable vehicles. I know, I never would have thought I'd say that, and so are a lot of BMW products. I've expressed that with the 3 Series, with the 4 and the 6-cylinder engines. The B48s and the B58s are some of the most reliable engines. So BMW's done a lot in terms of overall reliability, but also recalls. And Mini is one of the least recalled vehicles. All of this list of the best are all 0.1 times, and a bunch of vehicles that likely will have less than one recall in 30 years. So a very, very durable, well-sorted group of vehicles in that last list. Conversely, the first list was one which was comprised of real outliers, some very complex vehicles, German, Porsche, you name it, Ford. They're all going to be up there. Ford, Stellantis products, Rams, lots of recalls. We're hearing recalls with bad brakes and all kinds of other troubles, fire hazards. I just wanted to share that with you because I truly believe it's imperative that we do our research. When we're talking about reliable cars or vehicles that are not recalled very often, that's important because that's a vehicle that's well sorted, and the dealers and the OEMs are not relying on the buyers to sort out their dirty work. See, wash their laundry. See, so that's the list. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, everybody, please be sure to smack that subscribe button. And as well, always drop a line. I'd like to hear your thoughts. And if you had problems with recalls or recalls that maybe weren't dealt with and the dealers, they just didn't have parts, they just couldn't fix their vehicles or your vehicle for you, I'd like to hear more thoughts on that. Anyway, hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.